and he allegedly had been wearing a wire for the last 2 years.
I'm 22 to 24.
Yeah, well, prosecutors state that these transactions and the informant's recordings played key roles in linking Lil Durk to the murder-for-hire plan. There's a guy named OTF Jam.
Whack 100 wasn't making anything up. OTF Jam really did snitch on Lil Durk, and now things just turned deadly. Multiple reports are saying Jam was just killed, and word on the street is it wasn't random. People are saying this was a straight-up hit, a cold response to him flipping on his own crew. And get this, it might actually flip Lil Durk's whole legal situation upside down. Let's take it from the top. From loyalty to dry snitching and all the betrayal in between. Imagine this, a man who kept his mouth shut through a 12-year bid, didn't say a single word, came home to love, loyalty, and stacks of cash waiting for him. Durk's people looked out. They showed real respect. And then, bam.
He said, Jam, get out that jam, I'll give him 50, he ain't gotta ask again, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? He ain't gotta ask, bro. He said he gave you 50, bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Can you tell us how much he gave you, or you don't want to even?
No, we ain't gotta get into all that, but bro made sure he made a way for me to be straight, like he's saying, gotta ask again, you know, like shit. Free a car, all that.
He allegedly starts working with the feds. That's not just breaking code. That's the type of betrayal that makes you a target forever in some streets. That's how whole families end up paying the price. But before we go into how OTF Jam, real name Casey Hester, went from respected OG to one of the most hated names in the entire Chicago drill scene, we gotta break down the environment that raised him. This ain't just about one man, it's about a whole system that runs on honor and survival. In this world, your word is everything. Keeping it solid, that's life or death out here. And once you're labeled a snitch, ain't no coming back. Back in 2010, while most folks were trying to land their first car or hustle for a little shine, Jam was already waist deep in that battlefield. Jam caught an attempted murder charge and got slapped with 12 years behind bars. Now in the streets, that kind of time separates the solid ones from the ones who fold real quick. Most dudes would have started singing like they were trying out for The Voice, just to shave off a few years. But here's where it gets crazy. Because while Jam was sitting in a cell doing that hard time, a major setup was quietly being built, and no one even saw it coming. While Jam was locked up in the Illinois prison system, a young, hungry Lil Durk was out here making serious moves. He wasn't just rapping, he was building a movement. That's when OTF, Only the Family, was born in 2010, right around the same time Jam caught his charge. At first, it looked like a bunch of neighborhood homies just dropping tracks together.
That was wired.
Very ironic name.
Jam
now
got
he
him
put
in a
everyone
jam.
in a jam.
Did 12 years.
12
got
years.
out, interviewed, said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him 50,000.
Right.
This.
But nah, this thing grew legs fast. What started off as a little rap crew turned into a full-blown machine. It wasn't just about music anymore. Prosecutors later described OTF as something way more serious, a hybrid organization. On paper, it looked like a legit record label, but underneath, it had deep roots in the streets. The feds weren't just watching the music videos, they were tracking the money, the moves, everything. And right at the center of it all, a real dangerous link between OTF and the Black Disciples that had law enforcement locked in from the jump. This wasn't no act for the cameras. It wasn't some suburban kids trying to cosplay street life. These were real ones, certified steppers who had been active since they were kids. Everything they rapped about, that wasn't just creative writing. It was real life. That drill sound, it was basically an audio diary of beefs, bodies, and repercussions. While Jam was locked up serving those long 12 years, something wild was bubbling up on the outside.
Jam, I don't think Jam, if Jam was gonna snitch, he'd have been snitched on a lot of shit a long time ago. Jam's done a lot of time in jail. Jam, real.
Lil Durk was rising fast, and drill music was turning into a global wave. And OTF, they weren't just part of the wave, they were leading it. All those tracks about sliding on enemies, bodies dropping, and keeping it real weren't just lyrics. They were confessions, wrapped in bass lines and hi-hats, with the whole world dancing to war stories. By the time Jam touched back down in February 2022, the whole game had flipped. That hungry youngin' who started OTF when Jam first went in, he was now a heavyweight in the rap game. Durk had managed to go mainstream without ever letting go of that street image. That's a nearly impossible balance, and it comes with a heavy price. See, the same drama that fueled Durk's music, the same street wars that gave OTF its rep, hadn't stopped. That tension was still very much alive. And when King Von got killed in November 2020, that wasn't just a loss. They felt that in their soul. It cracked something inside the crew. And according to the code they live by, that kind of hit, in their world, some debts could only be paid in blood.
Still, this is a hereditary reward that's gonna go on forever. People that love Von, even fans, I ain't even talking about his real loved ones, just fans. People gonna have a problem with them forever.
That was the code. And breaking it? Unforgivable. This is where Jam's story collides with what's now shaping up to be one of the biggest federal cases in hip-hop history. When Jam got out in 2022, he didn't come back as just another ex-con trying to turn his life around. Nah, he walked straight into OTF's inner circle, getting shown major love by none other than Durk himself. This wasn't some soft re-entry program. This was real street loyalty. Brotherhood looking after brotherhood, or at least, that's what it looked like from the outside. Word is, Durk blessed Jam heavy, hooked him up with over $50,000, got him a place to stay, put him in a fresh whip, and even paid for his legal help. For someone who just ate over a decade behind bars, that kind of love, that's jackpot-level blessings. It wasn't just about helping a homie, it was an investment in loyalty.
You give your statement and you agree to cooperate, you're getting on that goddamn stand and you're saying exactly what you wrote down. Or else you're gonna do life in prison. Take your choice.
A way to show the whole squad that OTF takes care of its own. But here's where the betrayal cuts deep. Because allegedly, the whole time this was happening, Jam was wired up. Yup, feds say he had been recording convos for years, gathering audio like he was producing his own crime doc. If what investigators are claiming is true, then every single conversation, every dap, every promise of loyalty and protection, it was all being funneled straight to the feds. This so-called betrayal, it cuts way deeper than just one dude deciding to flip. We're talking about someone who got welcomed into the most trusted corners of the crew, sat at the table, heard it all, got treated like family. And now, the streets are saying he allegedly used that trust to help build a federal case, one that ended with Lil Durk getting slapped with murder for hire charges on October 24th, 2024. That ain't just disloyal. That's straight up nuclear. See, in the hood, there's a whole set of unwritten rules, codes that ain't printed in no law books but are very real. There's justice without courtrooms, consequences without lawyers. And once you get labeled a rat, that's not just a stain, it's a walking death wish.
According to the indictment, multiple individuals tied to OTF coordinated the plot and discussed payments after the alleged attempt on Quando's life. The plan allegedly involved offering music industry opportunities and cash rewards in exchange for the killing of Quando.
The system don't even have to touch you. The streets got their own system of punishment, and it hits way harder. Getting called a snitch in this game, that's basically a death sentence served cold by the same folks who once called you kin. And the wildest part? These allegations against Jam are out in the open now. Whether they're true or not almost doesn't matter anymore. In the eyes of the street code, that's the cold truth about the life they chose. Once the trap gets exposed, the bullets follow. And by fall 2024, things were spiraling into what would become the darkest chapter in OTF history. But don't get it twisted. This chaos didn't come out of nowhere. The seeds were planted long before, watered with real blood and fueled by a never-ending hunger for revenge that tore through everything in its path. What happened next felt like a movie script. But this wasn't no Hollywood flick. There were no stunt doubles, no second takes, just real lives lost. When the director yells cut in movies, people get back up. In this story, they stayed down. To really get how deep this thing runs, we gotta rewind to the chain of events that led to the August 2022 shooting in LA.
This whole case will stem on people cooperating. If they can get people to say, Durk put us up to this, and their stories are consistent, then Durk is cooked. If their story starts being flip-floppy, this person's version of the story is different than this person's version of the story, Drew Finley will tear them apart on stage.
A shooting that ended with the death of Xavier L.P.A. Robinson, cousin of Quando Rondo. And let's be clear, This wasn't some random act of street beef or a robbery gone wrong. According to federal reports, this was a targeted hit, a calculated setup that fell apart at the last second, leaving an innocent man dead while the actual target, Quando, walked away untouched. The spark for this entire alleged operation, it goes way back to November 2020, when King Von got taken out. Von was gunned down in Atlanta during a heated clash with Quando Rondo's crew. But let's be real, Von wasn't just another name on a track to OTF. He was family. He was a day one rider, the kind of loyal soldier every crew dreams of having. And in their world, his death created a blood debt that could only be paid with another body. But here's where it gets way darker. Because if the feds are telling the truth, and OTF Jam was actually out here wearing a wire, then this man wasn't some sideline spectator. He was right in the heart of the action. According to prosecutors, Jam was allegedly recording everything. The buildup, the moves, and the cleanup from what they're now calling a murder-for-hire plot. And the kind of access Jam supposedly had, man, it's almost unbelievable. We're talking about deep-level, backroom knowledge, real-time intel.
How would they know that music contracts was offered? Who would have to tell them that?
Well, prosecutors state that these transactions and the informant's recordings played key roles in linking Lil Durk to the murder-for-hire plan. There's a guy named OTF Jam.
Court docs claim an informant handed over receipts and recordings tying OTF credit cards to flight bookings that happened the exact same day Quando's life was on the line. That ain't some random outsider doing guesswork. That's someone who had VIP clearance, who saw and heard it all, from the money trails to the travel details to the behind-the-scenes strategy talks. What makes this whole situation so dangerous and heartbreaking is just how calculated it all was. The operation the feds are laying out wasn't sloppy, it was tight. And when the arrest came down, it wasn't just some random affiliates getting scooped. The 5 OTF members taken in, Kayvon London, Grant DeAndre, Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Brian Lindsay, and Asa Houston, were key players. These weren't sideline dudes. These were trusted insiders who handled some of OTF's most sensitive moves. But here's where things get downright chilling. Because based on the feds' claims, Jam had been wired up almost immediately after stepping out of prison in February 2022. That means from day one, nearly every convo he had with OTF could have been bugged, recorded, reviewed, and passed along to build a RICO case. Every word, every move, every plan, they might have all been captured. Convos about street strategy, revenge missions, and how to stay alive in the trenches. Jam was allegedly recording all of it. And where was it going? Straight to the same federal agents working overtime to build a case meant to destroy the very people who trusted him with their lives.
From 22 to 24.
Yeah.
So he immediately got caught up.
This wasn't some minor leak. This was a full-blown operation with receipts. Prosecutors say the evidence they got from Jam's alleged recordings is stacked. We're talking about audio of people talking cash payouts, tracking money transfers, and even straight-up blueprints of how the supposed murder-for-hire was planned and executed. This isn't he said, she said type of stuff. If these claims hold weight, it's hardcore proof of long-term organized activity. But what really stings isn't just the legal damage, it's the emotional shrapnel. Because what Jam allegedly didn't just break laws. It shattered the very thing OTF said they stood on. OTF wasn't just a brand or rap crew. It was supposed to be a family, built on shared pain, loyalty, and a ride-or-die mentality. The kind of bond where your word meant everything and betrayal? That was the one thing you never expected from one of your own. Jam, if this is true, didn't just flip. He crushed the foundation the crew stood on. Now, the fallout inside OTF is getting real messy. Some members still clinging to hope, defending Jam, saying this can't be true. That clip of Jam eating McDonald's during what looks like a federal interrogation, it's gone viral, and not in a good way. It's become the ultimate symbol of betrayal, blasted across social media and flipped into memes that straight up clown him for what many see as the lowest level of disloyalty. Just picture it. This man, calmly chomping on fries while possibly handing over the fate of his entire crew, that hit different. It shook people. In neighborhoods where loyalty is sacred, where your word means more than money, that image felt like a slap in the face. To sit there with ketchup on your fingers while your brothers face life behind bars? That's not just betrayal, it's personal. But this goes way beyond just OTF or even the rap game. If these allegations are solid, this shows the feds are playing chess now, not checkers. We're talking deep infiltration, long-term surveillance, and gathering evidence so detailed that they can take down whole crews, not just individual shooters or hustlers. It's not just about catching someone with a weapon or some dope anymore. It's about flipping insiders, placing mics in living rooms, and waiting until they've got everything lined up before they move in. And that McDonald's moment? That might have been the final play in a strategy the feds had been running since Jam touched down in 2022.
OTF Jam did 12 years for attempted murder back, I guess around 2010. He got out in 2022, right around the same time of the Quando situation. And he allegedly had been wearing a wire for the last 2 years.
The timing of the arrests, the way this whole thing was pulled off, it screams heavy coordination. Multiple agencies, airtight charges, and a long play that shows this wasn't some rushed raid. It was a well-oiled operation. The level of planning behind it, most people never expect law enforcement to move with this kind of precision. And as news of these allegations ripped through the hip-hop world and beyond, reactions have been flooding in. Shock, disbelief, straight-up fury. People are sitting back asking, how does someone fake loyalty for that long? How do you look folks in the eye, break bread and build trust, all while secretly working to tear everything down? And now everyone's wondering, what does this mean for crews like OTF moving forward? When keeping it real turns into RICO paperwork, that's when the game turns permanent. But this ain't just about OTF Jam anymore. It's deeper than one man flipping. This is about the total collapse of trust, about the deadly price that comes with betrayal. It's a brutal reminder of how federal infiltration doesn't just take down individuals. It rips apart entire communities that live by codes of loyalty, respect, and silence. Once that's gone, there's no repairing it. What's left from all this is more than just headlines. It's a warning, a lesson in how revenge, loyalty, and survival hit different when Uncle Sam's watching from the shadows. Street codes can't save you in a system built on wiretaps and courtrooms, and trying to play both sides, that's a losing game every time. But before we dive into the aftermath of Jam's alleged betrayal, we gotta really sit with how deep this cut was for the people who trusted him with their lives. These weren't casual friendships. These were brothers who shared war stories, losses, and loyalty. And then on December 17th, 2024, OTF Jam finally broke his silence. Not in court, but through his Instagram stories, trying to clap back at the growing storm around his name. His statement read, "When the discovery comes out, you're going to see I'm not how the feds got on to us or built their case. I'm gonna let the paperwork come out because it's gone tell it all." But by the time he hit post, it was already too late. His name had been dragged, his reputation shredded, and more importantly, his safety was in serious danger.
I know Jim personally.
Oh, really?
Like,
Okay.
personally. So my mom's side, that St. Life Evans, St. Lawrence, all that shit, Evans Mob, his squad, like that. Where Jam is from, he would be considered my op, but he's not because of my other people type, because he's from off 79th and Vernon.
See, in the world Jam came from, even being accused of being a federal informant is enough to get you put in the dirt. Don't matter if it's true or not, the label alone can sign your death certificate, because the streets, they don't follow courtroom rules. There's no jury, no evidence debate, no appeals. The street code runs on instinct, loyalty, and survival. And once someone is seen as a threat to that structure, the punishment is swift, and it rarely comes from enemies. Most times, it's handed out by your own people. In places where your name is everything and trust is the only real currency, once you're branded a snitch, concern for Jam's safety has been loud all over the internet, especially on Reddit, where users have been debating what would happen if he ever dared to show his face in Chicago again. And let's be real, the general vibe from folks who know how street politics work, it's bleak. Doesn't matter if he's actually guilty or not. The accusation alone might have already sealed his fate. But things take an even darker turn when you look at the extra layers of drama that have started swirling around this whole mess. There are rumors, unconfirmed but loud, that Lil Durk allegedly ordered the killing of Jam's baby mother as retaliation for the snitching. Again, there's no solid proof behind these claims, and they should be taken with caution. But the fact that talk like this is even making the rounds, that says everything about how high stakes this game really is.
They're telling me he was actually in Los Angeles.
Oh, really? You're saying
telling
OTF
me
Jam was in LA?
He got caught with a switch, and they're telling me he's kind of the one saying the 50 I got paid was for that. But it's weak because that was to the world, he just was blessing it.
The type of violence that can erupt over accusations like this isn't just targeted, it's personal. And what makes it even more complicated, a lot of people who knew Jam personally are having a hard time believing any of this. We're talking about a guy who did 12 years without cracking, someone who, by all appearances, lived by the street code. To those who ran with him, who broke bread with him, who saw him stay silent through real pressure, these snitching allegations feel out of character, almost unbelievable. Even though rumors went wild in November 2024 claiming OTF Jam had been killed, those stories completely debunked. That viral video making rounds, the one that looked like a fatal shooting, was not Jam. It actually showed the tragic killing of CJ Rila, a 16-year-old drill rapper from New York who lost his life on October 24th, 2024. As of May 23rd, 2025, there's zero credible evidence that OTF Jam is dead. No official reports, no investigation, no confirmed incident. It's all smoke and internet hype. But the fact that so many people believed it right away says a lot about how the streets operate and how fast folks assume that an alleged informant like Jam would eventually get hit. In neighborhoods where snitch is the dirtiest label you can wear, people expect that kind of payback. Whether right or wrong, the assumption is enough to get your name in the dirt, even if you're still breathing. Meanwhile, the legal side of this storm ain't slowing down. Lil Durk's trial has been pushed back to October 14th, 2025, with whispers of new evidence and possible plea deals. That delay shows the feds are still cooking up their case, still digging deeper, still stacking whatever they can use in court. And OTF as a whole, they've been wrecked, with core members locked up and legal heat closing in from all directions. The very foundation Durk spent over a decade building is crumbling. Even worse, the same money, texts, and internal bonds that kept the group tight, they're now being flipped into evidence. That's the harshest twist in all of this. What was once a symbol of loyalty and brotherhood is now getting used against them, line by line, dollar by dollar. And families are fighting back. Lil Durk's people dropped public statements slamming the use of his lyrics in court. OTF Jam's family is denying everything, standing 10 toes down against the snitch talk. They're saying he's being framed, just caught in the middle of a federal setup. These public defenses aren't just PR moves. They show how deep the emotional damage goes. This ain't just about one man, one crew. It's tearing apart families, reputations, and everything these people thought they knew about loyalty. Whether Jam really flipped, or whether he's a pawn in a bigger federal game, his name is now tied to a cautionary tale that's bigger than drill music. This is about how the rules on the block don't mean a thing when the feds step in with endless resources, undercover setups, and years-long infiltration tactics. The old codes, loyalty, silence, brotherhood, they're being flipped and exposed by people playing a whole different game. And the government, they don't play fair, but they do play to win. Let this be a warning. When you're out here living by street codes, but the consequences come with federal weight, you're in a game where the house never loses. If you're feeling the realness and want to stay tapped in, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel.